Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What's a modern trend you think people will regret in 10 years? Buccal fat removal. First thing that came to my mind too, mostly because it is irreversible. Once those fat pads are gone, they are gone forever. We're already seeing the effects of out-of-control Botox and filler use, but both of those are generally considered reversible. Perhaps not 100%, but significant improvements can be made if something has gone wrong. Buccal fat removal ages people so significantly, at least to me, and it's all people in their 20s and 30s getting it done. As they age they will kick themselves for removing fat, as without that fat they are going to see deep lines and wrinkles much sooner and much more pronounced. No amount of filler or other surgical procedures will be able to replace the fat they had removed, and I worry they'll all end up looking sick from their face being artificially gaunt, or freakish from whatever attempts may be made to try to restore the appearance of buccal fat. It's already happening in the sense that some celebrities or media figures do buccal fat removal, and then regret it in a few years as they age and end up getting fillers, and get so much filler then they look like the 50-year-old burger-cheeked cat-faced lady who did too much plastic surgery, look. Except in the past, that lady looks like that from 30 years of plastic surgery gradually building up. Now some 28-year-old gets buccal fat removed, looks 40 years old a few years later, and starts pumping in the burger cheeks. It's literally a speed run. People won't look like those burger-cheeked old ladies anymore because plastic surgery got better over the past 20 years. Isn't true if you make rash decisions about plastic surgery, I'm guessing. Filming their kids' worst moments for internet clout. They'll resurface and the kids will be bullied relentlessly. I recently went down a rabbit hole of this influencer mom Ruby Franca, who is currently in jail on child abuse charges. Her eldest daughter recently gave testimony on how growing up in an influencer family contributed to the abuse of her and her siblings, and how there should be laws and such in place so that kids couldn't be pawns on their parents' YouTube accounts. I've never followed any parental influences in depth, but based on what I've read about the case I don't get how there aren't already laws in place. There was an armor several years ago from a young woman who had a mom who was a blogger, before influencers became a thing, who blogged about every private detail of that poor girl's childhood, even the most intimate details like periods and stuff. I remember her saying she would beg her mom to stop but she wouldn't, and that the second she became an adult and was able to get away from her, she went 100% no contact. She said she was bullied so bad at school that she often considered just killing herself. So fucking awful. I can't imagine exploiting my kid like that. Even just putting their kids on the internet, to be honest. Name, date of birth, location, pictures, it's crazy to me. 1 or 2 photos is fine, but the oversharing to adults you don't know is wildly inappropriate. The kids can't consent. They should be able to choose for themselves when they become teenagers. Even as a young adult, it's really shocking how much I've had to fight my mom to not share details about my life on her social media. A lot of them just somehow don't even see it as a problem, and think it would be stranger to not post anything at all. Putting their whole lives on the internet. People were saying this 10 years ago. And I do regret everything I put on there 10 years ago. Giving their children unfettered access to technology. I'm a teacher and I already regret parents giving their children unfettered access to technology. My mother is a retired teacher. I recall her saying that while she loved teaching, it got to the point by the end that she had a hard time recommending it as a profession anymore. Mainly, and I'm paraphrasing, generalizing here, she opined that parents shifted for the worse and became insufferable. Basically a shift as in how parents react to problematic behavior or a kiddo not putting in the effort. When she started teaching, if there was an issue, the parental default was to correct the kid. Later, it changed to where Precious Snowflake could do no wrong, and any critique was met with parental pushback. How dare anyone suggest Precious Snowflake needs to change anything? Parents threatening teachers, etc. She said it broke her heart, but teaching was no longer worth the BS. Edit for spelling correction. Getting advice from TikTok influencers instead of actual experts. I was the generation known for using WebMD to self-diagnose ourselves with cancer. Not sure the new version of that is considerably worse or not, lol. I typed in your symptoms here and it says you might have network connectivity problems. They went with the name WebMD because you have cancer.com seemed to be a little too on the nose. Relying on AI to get through school. They will end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for a diploma, but in the end they will realize that they don't really know much. The people that have the morals to fully rely on AI for school don't have the shame to realize they're a problem. I consider myself decently, using that term liberally, intelligent as an adult, but in college I was far too immature to understand, or care maybe, why relying on AI could be detrimental to my life eventually. Thank God AI was like 10 years away, haha, I would have used the shit out of that. but I'm lazy and don't care about this class, then you're not fit for higher education. It's time to grow up. As a college instructor, I really fear for the future. Everyone's using AI and they aren't learning a damn thing. At least back in the day you had to work hard to cheat, but now it's a Control+C, Control+V job for everything. I think education is going to have to evolve to better test synthesis and comprehension rather than rote and algorithmic memorization. AI is now also a tool that can be used on the job too, and so the skills that AI is good at are no longer as valuable skills to have in the workforce. I felt my brain going numb in high school AP English and SAT prep from the amount of brain-dead 5-paragraph I was made to write. Every time I went off script to write something I felt had consequence and wasn't merely restating the obvious with a few vocab words of the week awkwardly thrown in, I got punished with a few marks taken off. I find it hilarious that these exercises I found pointless are now exactly what AI is good at and has made redundant and difficult to test. Education is going to have to adapt, and it's going to need to focus more on skills that are found in the workplace. For starters, I think we need to test oral communication far more. Being able to think on the spot, or at least prepare for being able to respond on the spot, and communicate complex tasks without the aid of time for revision is a skill that isn't taught much in school, but is extraordinarily useful in the workplace. Letting go of their privacy. We're not letting go, it's being torn from us. I did quite a bit of research on this a few years back. I was looking into starting a business focused on online privacy protection. Ultimately, I concluded that it is already 10 to 15 years too late. Unless you go full Kaczynski and disconnect completely, it's absolutely impossible to live, work, and participate in the modern world while protecting your privacy in any meaningful way. Anti-intellectualism. Well, the people who engage in it won't regret it, and the rest of us already are. One thing I always remember is someone saying once, science is a scam, period. They're constantly changing what they say just because someone else said they were wrong. If science was real, then they'd refuse to change their mind no matter what. But they're only concerned about being popular, so they constantly change their theories. This person was criticizing him, adjusting things to fit new evidence, saying they should ignore evidence and just keep screaming they're right. I remember being terrified at the number of people who were saying that dude was exactly right. This line of thinking is why religion has persisted for millennia. Over-reliance on AI text generators to write any letters, essays, or other texts. Except for cover letters. That shit has streamlined my job search efforts. I'm able to apply to many more jobs per day than when I was writing them manually. Cover letters are cancer, such a stupid and outdated concept for job searching. My resume should speak for itself. Elevating the dumbest people to the highest public offices in the country. It's shocking how many countries this perfectly applies to. Sad face. Sending your DNA into a random company. If you think tech companies are bad with your data privacy, imagine what can happen when misuse of your human building blocks becomes lucrative. I've always been amazed that people are voluntarily providing their own DNA and paying a fee. Tears of joy, tears of joy. I watch too much forensic stuff to think this is ever a good idea. I know I'm kind of an exceptional case, but I was adopted as a baby, and that's how I found my birth mom. She then helped me find my birth dad, and I'm now very close with my 5 half-siblings. I doubt that I will ever regret sending my DNA to a company. I was always afraid they could sell my DNA profile to health insurance companies, which could then deny my claim since my DNA shows a predisposition to certain cancers. There's currently a law against this in the US, but I've avoided DNA tests for the same reason. I have very little faith that law will actually protect against that kind of stuff. Posting every waking moment and thought they have online. Never before have lived less lived been more chronicled. Dennis Miller. Not vaccinating their kids. Starting in of the second you turn 18. Not a super common one. But the amount of 17Y, mini influencers who have grown men waiting for them to turn 18 BC they've already said they'll make one is sad. Posting your nudes anywhere online, like I'm all for body positivity and if you're fine with it sure, but no, once it's out there it's out there. I was honestly going to say that originally, but I didn't want to have to explain that didn't mean I was judging anyone who did SW. But I think the porn industry as a whole does entirely more harm than good to everyone involved. Participants and viewers. The one I swear people are going to laugh at like 80s hair is the lash extensions. Y'all are gonna be like, why did I think I looked good rocking those snuffleupagus ass lashes? Also the weird ass nails that are too long. Snuffleupagus ass lashes is the roast of the day, hands clapping. Not building any tolerance for being offended, uncomfortable, distressed, conflict, etc. I get that for a long time, the opposite was true, and that wasn't good either. But it baffles me how people act like if their worldview is not immediately and vehemently agreed with and upheld by every single other person, they will melt into a puddle and the world will be worse for it. I can't tell you how many times a week I just want to say, grow the fuck up. But, to be clear, it's a multi-generational and multicultural problem IMO. I don't think one group is guilty, but I do think it has gotten worse in the last decade. It went from the virtual world to in person. People can't seem to have normal conversations without completely cutting people off. Granted, there are nuances. For instances, one shouldn't be compelled to interact with someone who poses a risk to their well-being, e.g. abusive partner, parent, etc. I'm talking about disagreements. The one example I can think of is if person A says they like pancakes, person B goes, "What are you trying to say? You think you're better than me? You're a pancake hater." Then person B gets called a narcissist and are told they're gaslighting them. Emotional regulation ceases to exist. There are people who think they're being gaslit when someone doesn't agree with them.